I just wanted to make this tutorial for you guys just to help maintain the hair that they have right now. I know that a lot of people can't get to the salon and we just don't know when it's going to open yet. So in the meantime, let me just help you kind of trim up the hair and make it nice and neat so that by the time he gets to the salon, it's not down to his shoulder. Okay, so what I recommend you using are hair cutting shears. Hair cutting shears are different from kitchen shears. Kitchen shears are a lot more dull, and when you use them in the hair, it won't really cut through, so you'll run the risk of cutting yourself even more. So you definitely want to order some hair cutting shears. You could easily even get it on Amazon if you order it online. So if you don't have that already, I recommend you getting those along with clippers. I'm going to show you today how to do like a 2 to 4 fade. That's going to be a little bit longer on the sides. When you go too short, there's not enough room for error, and it is a little bit more difficult to do. So after you've made sure that his hair is nicely cleaned and dried, you want to make sure to use a cape. So this cape is not necessary. You don't need to have a cape. You could use a garbage bag, a plastic garbage bag, to just help protect himself from all that loose hair. You could get a large garbage bag and just cut the corners of the bag and just kind of pop it through. So you want to make sure that you get a clip to make it nice and tight. Not too tight, but tight enough where not a lot of that loose hair is going to go in. Because it does get quite uncomfortable and it'll just be a really unpleasant experience for him. Make sure that you have some sort of clip. You want to use a clip like this, and you want to just section out his hair. When you look at his hairline, do you see where there's a point? And most men will have a point. And so once you kind of reach the point, sometimes it's like at the arch of his eye, or sometimes it's at the corner or the end of his eyebrow. You just kind of want to make a line and kind of section that out of the way. See? So I've sectioned it nice and straight, kind of lined up with that corner. And I'm going to do the same with this side. Okay, just like that. So you'll see 2 clips on each side just so that we could section it off, make it nice and clean. You don't want to go into his hair. You want to go either vertically up or vertically up and away. Okay, so let me just start off. And you could just kind of first get the feel for it and see how everything is going. But yeah, you could just start off on the side right here first. And then just go straight up if that's what you feel most comfortable with. So make sure that you pretend that there's like a wall here and you're not going past this wall. And this is like another good trick to kind of make sure that you're not going into the hair. So today we're just going to give you that really basic squared out look. Most men, they prefer more of a square look than a more rounded look. So I'm just continuing on to this side. Alright, so I've done both sides now. I've done the flat of his head on this side and the flat of his head on this side. And a lot of the times when non-professionals are trying to cut their men's hair, I always hear questions about the back of his head. So when you're looking at the back of his head, you want to make sure that you're making that horseshoe shape. So you want it going flat across his head and then just dipping down a little, making that horseshoe U, and then flat across the other side of his head. You do not want to go past his cowlick. Most people will have a cowlick somewhere on almost the top or like the top bottom of his head. You don't want to come anywhere higher than that. So you want to just make sure that you're clippering just maybe an inch or 2 below his cowlick, just so that the hair is not sticking straight out. Just think about it as you're just carving something out, you know? Like you're just making sure that you're removing only the parts of the hair that you want to remove. And so by just kind of visualizing that U shape in the back, it's going to help you visualize a little bit better where you should clipper or not. And like I mentioned, this is going to be a slightly longer haircut tutorial, and it's a lot easier to do, especially for a beginner. But as you're cutting, make sure to just check in with your partner too, because you know, most men are very particular about their hair. They know exactly what they like and what they don't like. So make sure you communicate with him, letting him know that this is just something really basic to just help him look like, you know, well maintained. So now that I've finished going around his head, I'm going to switch out to now my 3-guard. So the 3-guard here is going to be my mid-length right here. So we're focusing more on the top here. Now we're going to focus here in the middle. The idea is you're going from long, shorter to shortest. Okay? So only working on the middle. And just keep clippering away until you feel like you're not hearing as much of the hair being cut. If you want to get a little fancy, instead of just clippering one way, you could always crisscross it and go left direction, right direction, left direction. Same thing. On this side, you could go left here and go right. This is just going to make sure that you get all that loose hair that you might have missed. And then I'm just going to go back to this side one more time just to make sure that I got everything. Okay. We're going to switch it to a 2. And this is going to be the shortest kind of on the very bottom. And we'll use something a little bit shorter later just to clean up the edges. But what we're doing with the 2-guard is just making sure that we're just following the line of his hairline. Make sure you're not going up too high for this, because you only want to cut the ends, the very ends of his hairline. So you're just kind of clippering the last inch to inch and a half around his hairline. When you get to the back, you just want to make sure that he puts his head down a little bit. And make sure the back, you're really making that C scooping out movement. So you just want to scoop outwards towards you. Same on the other side. The other thing that you want to be careful for is protecting his ear. So what I like to do is I like to just put his ear down and just work around his ear like that. And same goes with the front of his ear. You just want to push his ear backwards and work the front of his ear back and forth. Just be careful not to stab him. So we've done the 4, 3, and 2. But if you notice, you're still going to see a lot of that curling right at the edges of his hair. And so now you're going to go with a 1. I'm just working with like maybe the first few teeth up to here. I'm only working with this much, not this whole section, but just only a little bit here, just to outline the outer perimeter of his hair. The sideburns though, you can kind of cut his sideburns though like this. And then make sure to always be moving his ear around so that you're not stabbing him. And then we're just going to be cutting a 1/2 inch around his hairline now. Okay. All right. And then the final part of this is to use a zero. The zero might be a little bit more scarier because now you don't have a guard on, but still don't be scared. As long as you're not digging into his hair, you're not going to be hurting him. If you don't feel comfortable, you can leave it just as is and it'll still look way better than what it was before. I recommend just outlining like 1/8 of an inch all around his hairline and making nice clean cuts for his sideburn and his neckline. For his sideburn, I always recommend just shaving or clippering all the way up to where his tragus bone is coming out on each end, so you know that it's even on both sides. So I'm just going to bring it straight up and just remove that extra sideburn hair. You're also going to try and take away some of that extra hair by outlining only 1/8 of the hair around the hairline. Kind of like I mentioned before, just carving it out a little bit. And then in the back hair right here, you just want to make sure that his hairline in the back is straight across, but you don't want to go up too high. So first, you just want to determine where you want your hairline to start and end. Have your partner kind of check to see if he wants it a little bit higher, and he'll let you know like how high he wants to come up. But I like to just make a straight line across first, and then after you establish that straight line, then you want to remove all the excess neck hair. And then make sure you repeat the other side of the head. You just kind of want to make sure that everything is nicely blended. So what I like to do sometimes is get my comb. This is a little bit more advanced, but I just want to show this to the people who are able to kind of follow along. This is optional, so you could always just kind of brush your comb across his head and see if there's any like long pieces of hair that's coming out, and then you could just kind of cut along this way. Again, cut along this way. And then same on the other side. The next part of cutting his hair is now making sure that we cut off some of the top. You want to have damp hair so that it's easier to control, easier to hold on to, and the hair will look a lot softer when it's blow dried. Okay, so now I have just a bowl of water. You could, if you have a spray bottle, you could definitely use a spray bottle, but I'm just assuming that you don't. So you just get a bowl of water, you could just wet your fingers a little bit and then just kind of brush his hair through, just to make sure that he gets, his hair gets nice and damp. All right, so now what you'll probably be experiencing is some of his hair on the side just kind of hanging out like this. And you're probably freaking out a little bit like, oh my God, what do I do with all this hair on the side? But it's quite easy. So let me just section this right off the middle, and we're just gonna give him a nice middle part like this. And if you feel like his hair is not wet enough, always just grab more water and you could apply more water as you go, like this. Okay. So this is, Sean's a pretty good example because he's been growing out the top of his hair for a while, and I'm sacrificing him to cut it shorter. So here we go. I'm gonna do this. Vertical section. You see all of that hair that's sticking out right there? You're just gonna cut it right off. One more time. Grab a section. All that hair right here, you're gonna cut it straight up. Again, grabbing his hair. There's all that loose hair right there. Straight up. And then I'm going to continue to the front. So then the front of his hair, they sometimes like to leave it a little bit longer. So what you want to do is exactly do the same thing before, just grab it, but you want to actually just pull it back like 1/2 inch and then cut it. This is called over direction, and it's just going to leave the front a little bit longer. Guys hate it when we call it bangs, but I just call it bangs still, but it's just their bang area that you want to leave out a little bit longer. So then just grab one more time, go back a little, and cut. And I'm going to do the same exact thing on the other side. And just standing in front of him while you're cutting his left side is easier. And when you're cutting his right side, standing behind him is easier. And then at this point, you want to ask your partner, which way do you like to part your hair? Do you like to put your hair onto this side or to that side? Sean?
Oh, right.
Right side. So you like to...
I know this is interactive.
No, that's okay. I was kidding. So now let's move it to the right. By this point, his hair might have dried out a little bit, so you want to re-wet it one more time. And we're going to cut the middle of his hair. So we're going to start in the back, right here. We're going to pull his hair all the way up, and we're just going to cut off an inch on top. But ask your partner, does he want to get half an inch off the top or a full inch off the top? I think they might just say half an inch at first because they're a little nervous. But then they'll probably ask you to cut another half an inch after, which is fine too. Just be patient with them because it's new to them as well. And like I said, men are a lot more particular than women with their haircuts, to be honest. So you're going to just work your way forward, cutting the top half inch to a full inch. So you just want to work your way all the way up and just cut straight across. If you're feeling a little bit more advanced and a little bit more fancy, then you could always lift his hair all the way up and do what's called a point cut. We're just going to cut into the hair. Cut into the hair. This will give us a lot softer line when the hair is dried. It won't look so sharp and so straight when his hair is styled. But you can run the risk of accidentally cutting yourself. So if you don't feel confident with your shears, don't do that, because there's another way of softening up that edge without using shears, which are the thinning shears. And I'll show you that right now. Thinning shears are shears that have teeth here. Do you see this? Oops. It has some teeth. And this is going to give you like a softer edge on the haircut. So since we went all the way to the side and the other side and cut the top, we're going to part his hair down the middle one more time. And we're just going to do the exact same thing that we did with our shears, but with our thinning shears. We're only going to cut the tip of the hair maybe 1 or even 2 times if their hair is very coarse. So making sure that I take vertical sections and just cutting the edges so that it looks a lot softer. And then I'll do the other side too. And then you're gonna do the same thing to the top right here. Across once. Sometimes I'll do it twice. If I feel like I went through it and I don't even see a difference, then maybe I'll do it like one more time. But majority of the time I'm just going through it once like this. But if you feel like, oh no, I don't really see a difference, just do one more time, that's it. And then the last thing that you want to do is just kind of brush through his hair to the front and see how long his hair is in the front. I'm just checking the mirror. And I feel like for him, because he usually likes to keep his hair really long, he's already thinking that this is pretty short. So I'm going to keep it as is. The next thing you want to do is just make sure that when you're looking at his hair, there's nothing that's sticking out too much. If you feel like there's little pieces of hair that's sticking out, you can always go through it with your thinning shears and then just kind of like soften it out, like so, like this, and kind of cutting any pieces that you feel like is sticking out. And you could do that to the very back of his head too. So you can grab this and you could use the thinning shears to just kind of soften out the back. And then you could start to cut more of the little corners off the back. Okay. After you're done with all this, you're going to slowly take the cape off, have him go jump in the shower, come back out, and then we're going to style his hair. Okay, so this is how his hair came out. As you can see, it's going from short to medium to long, and we got a lot of the bulk out of his hair. And so now that Sean's done washing his hair, what you want to do when his hair is slightly damp still, you want to style it. So I'm using this hard wax in a tube from Pasta. This wax is called Concrete, and it's really nice because it comes out really nice and smooth like this. But when it sets in his hair, it sets really nice and stiff, but still gives it a bit of flexibility and not too much shine. So it looks like his natural texture. Sean, you like to wear your hair on the right side, right?
Yes.
All right. Just like this. All right. And this is the final look. And then how about the other way? Okay. I hope this was helpful. I can't wait for you to try this at home and let me know how it goes. Thanks so much. Bye. Okay, so now that we're done cutting his hair, I just wanted to show you how his fade came out.
3 days later! I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
Okay, so now that we've done pause.
Oh! Oh! What the f?
Sorry.
Dude.
Pause. Thanks so much. Bye.
What am I, a countertop to you? What am I, a countertop? You just leaning on me like that?